Welcome to Behind the Model, a show diving into the virtual world and exploring its stories with the VTubers who lead the way. She's the VTubing Charity Witch on Twitch. Tiffany Witcher has been dedicating her streams to a plethora of different causes for 5 years now, raising tens of thousands of dollars along the way. Behind that work, though, is a legacy she wants to leave behind, and stories of trials and tribulations that embolden her to make charity work her calling. Tiffany, welcome to Behind the Model.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor being here.
It's so good to have you on. It's actually more of an honor to have you here on Behind the Model and chatting to you about all the amazing work that you've done over the last God knows how long. I said 5 years in the intro, but I'm sure it extends well beyond that.
It's a lot of charity, yes.
Yeah. And as much as we focus on charity in the intro there is also a lot more to your story in terms of who you are as a person and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully we get to explore all of that.
Okay.
But to start it off, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. The VTubing Charity Witch of Twitch. Where does that name come from?
It came from a random person, like a couple years ago, that I was just streaming a lot of charity. We raised like a good $2,000 for a small charity. And someone was like, "You're like the VTubing Charity Witch on Twitch." And I was like, well, they said the Charity Witch on Twitch, but I'm like, oh, I like that. I'm going to use that. And that's just how the name just stuck. And because it also rhymes with my name too. It's like Tiffany Witcher, the VTuber Charity Witch on Twitch. So like it was one of those things where I just like, yeah, I would consider something a title that I would be very proud of, because I have done so many charities in the last 5 years. So yeah, it was just a person's suggestion and I just went with it.
I mean, it's perfect alliteration if you ask me. It rolls off the tongue very nicely.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah. I hope that person had some royalties on it though.
I don't know what happened to them, because I've been actually looking for them for a long time and they just haven't shown up. So I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I hope they show up again, because I'll know their name when I see. You know how you can't remember a name until you see it, and then it's just like that's just basically what it is. So hopefully they'll like come by again. But yeah, no, it's been a very, very interesting title to have for sure.
Let's wind it back to the whole content creation and streaming beginning. How intertwined was that kind of line of charity work when you started out in streaming, or did you have different ideas of a completely different direction entirely?
So I've been doing charity for a very long time, since I was a kid, really. But I did charity at conventions. But I wanted to also enjoy the convention at the same time, because I would just sit at the table all day and not really enjoy the convention. So when I got into content creating and streaming, I was like, oh, maybe I can do charity streams, and that way I can still, enjoy time and have fun with friends and stuff like that at conventions and stuff. So I did my research and saw like there are ways that you can, do charity, do Tiltify. And from there, that's how I started to build my content before I started VTubing, of course, because I've been a VTuber in 3 years and I've been streaming for 5. And I just started building on that first with the Lupus Foundation, because lupus means so much to me, because I have lupus. So it was one of those things where it is my content. I don't want it to be my main content, but it is one of the things I stand very strongly beside as a content creator, helping others and just doing good things and knowing that someone else in the world is worse off than yourself.
Tell me a little bit about your mother, because as far as I'm aware, she was a very important part for laying the roots and the foundation of this importance of charity to you.
Yeah, so my mother, Myra Witcher, was a very charitable woman. Like, she did a lot of, really good things for really amazing, like, people. So my mother was, my Amazon just went off. My mother was just a kind-hearted person. So she was a registered nurse, but she got her master's in teaching and business management. So she would teach nurses, but she decided to teach nurses in low-income areas back home. And it was something that she really wanted to do, because like the nursing was like very was getting lower and lower, and there are people who want to get into nursing, who want jobs and stuff like that and want to make money. So she would literally go and tutor them, teach these classes to immigrants and low income places. And like she would do like all these charitable things. She was a Girl Scout leader. She was also would do these walks and stuff, feed the homeless with soup kitchens, help out churches and stuff. My mom was just a great, great, honorable person. And, you know, when she passed away, it was like, the funeral was just, you know, I was currently living with my fiance at the time, now my husband. And the funeral, you know, I thought it was going to be a very small funeral. I was very confused why the venue was a really big church and not the smaller church that we're used to. So I was just like, okay, that's strange. So found out that, you know, of course the family goes first. I was in the front. My dad was next to me. And I didn't see behind me at all. I was just, you know, paying attention to the service. And it wasn't until I did my speech about my mother, I looked into the pews and it was filled up with so many people. And then at the end of the funeral, people would walk up to me. They give you gifts and stuff. It was something I wasn't used to. They gave me like, you know, condolences, envelopes and things like that and gifts. And it was a line of people that my mother has helped. And it was wild because there was like, you know, the nurses that she helped get work and like tutor and like the charity people and like, you know, that she did work for. And it was just so inspiring to see like my mom had this big of a legacy, you know, and I didn't know about it. All I saw her was like leave at night to go help tutor and go like on Saturdays to go do charity stuff. So it was one of those things that like took me off guard a lot. Trying not to get choked up. It's one of those things that took me off guard a lot. So when you know, I was done mourning and stuff like that, I had my wedding and I decided to do streaming. I wanted to like kind of honor her legacy and do it my own way and help people around the world.
And I guess across your work so far in the VTubing space, you've done more than 70 charity streams across how many years. You've raised tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. How do you think you're going on that legacy path?
I think it's turned from like a legacy, like it's like walking not in her shoes but beside her, and to the point where I will walk on my own and make my own legacy. But it's been wild to like work with so many different charity organizations, celebrities and stuff like that, from like Aaron Hansen of the Game Grumps to like working with like Rubber Ross and like so many, like doing big charity streams. It's been definitely an interesting journey now on charity number 76. So it's something that I'm very thankful to do. It's something that I'm honored to do. And it's something I'm proud to do. And I know she would be proud of me to this day that I'm doing it my own way and not her way. Yeah.
Is there like a little bit of like a selfish aspect of making content for yourself here as well? Like you've done so much to give others the opportunity and a platform and raise all that money. Do you feel like is there room in your content to make a little bit more time for yourself nowadays?
I have done that now. I will admit that when I first did this journey, I was doing a charity every week, and it was burning me out really badly because I wanted to be a savior. I wanted to help people, but I had to learn the harsh lesson that I can't help everyone and I'm not Superman. So I first couple years with like a charity every week. That's why people are like, how did you do 75 in 1 year? I was like, I was doing a charity every week. And then it was like 3 times a week, and then I went down to every other week, and now I went down to once a month. I think I just started doing once a month starting like last November. So it was one of those things where I had to think about myself because I'm also chronically ill and disabled. And I also have to think about, you know, and it does sound selfish. It did sound selfish at first, and that's why I had such a hard time dealing with this. but I'm also a content creator that wants to grow, and if I grow, I can help more people. But in order to do that, I can't just focus on charity. And I've had other big charity streamers come to me saying, Tiffany, you got to focus on your own content. You can't save everyone and all these things. You're doing good work, but you have to understand that you come first. And as selfish as that may sound, they were absolutely right, because my health is something that I need to focus on, especially with lupus. Stress can induce a flare up.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the biggest causes of, lupus flare ups is stress. And I was doing that to myself because I wanted to do more. I wanted to be everywhere. But now I'm at the point where I do have to make my own bag, and I do have to, like, help supply for my family and stuff and myself as a content creator. So that's why I did take the steps to, like, focus more on myself, do a charity, then focus on myself, then do a charity. And that has been the perfect balance of my content creating. And now I'm venturing into YouTube. It's going to be even more and more of a better balance, because I'll be happy and not stressed, and that's what we want.
Because then that means we get more Tiffany doing great work for the future,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. My husband literally was like, you can't help people if you're dead. And
That's
it was
true.
like the hardest pill to swallow, that my husband, he's really honest, and he's really tough, and he's really sweet. But, like, when he has to be tough and honest, he has to be tough and honest. And he goes, you cannot help people if you are dead. You need to focus on yourself. And I said, okay, you're right. So that's what happened. That's what I did.
How do you pick all these charities? How do you pick 70 different, like, streams and charities to support?
I mean, like, it's a process. Sometimes I have charities actually come to me. They reach out to me saying, hey, could you raise money for us? We've heard about you, which is really, really awesome. It's really awesome when they come to me and ask. But sometimes I'll just, like, there could be a certain month coming up, like Pride or the holidays, to help feed the hungry and things like that, where I'll do a charity for. May is Lupus Awareness Month. I believe November is Epilepsy Awareness Month, which is something I also suffer from. So it's one of those things where sometimes it's close to my heart, sometimes it's close to other people's heart, like friends and family who have suffered from something, and sometimes it's charities that come to me. But I do my research. And make sure how much these charities are making, how much is actually going out to the people, and things like that. It is a process. And that's another reason why I was getting stressed, because I would do this weekly and, like, have no time for nothing else. And it was like, now I actually can, like, space out charities and put them, in, like, a queue, and be like, okay, I've done all the research. It sits there until the day of the charity. That's fine. And so, yeah, it's definitely a big process, research, and, like, a lot of work to put into these charities that I feel.
I do not fathom how much, like, that takes, because, there is always this talk about whether this is a split go, and, like, how much makes it out and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we mentioned at the top you're the VTubing Charity Witch of Twitch, but you weren't always the VTubing Charity Witch of Twitch. You were just the Charity Witch. Where did the VTubing element come in for you, and why did you make the jump?
So I mentioned before, I suffer from something called lupus, but my lupus is called DLE. And it's basically a subtype about it. It's like it's the chronic version, unfortunately. I basically developed, like, scales and on my body, and on top of all the other things with lupus, like, I can suffer from kidney failure, and I have seizures and things like that, and sometimes my lungs don't like to work and stuff. But the scales are something that I have grown to not like, especially on my face, despite my makeup game being on point. But it was one of those things where I kind of got tired of doing my makeup over and over again, and I was like, well, I need to do something, because I'm not happy currently. I wasn't happy with my content at all, because I wasn't happy with the way I looked. And when I have one of my model makers, which is Kilakuma, she does 3D models. And when I reached out and say, hey, how did you get into this thing, this virtual character thing? And she was like, oh, VTubing. And that's when I really started learning about VTube about 3.5 years ago. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. This is the free program for 3D characters. I went on Fiverr, got a model made in like a day. It was a very cheap model, but it was good for cheap. And I started doing it, and I told my community, hey, this is just probably temporary. I want to try it out. But then I started to like it because I didn't have to worry about like, my skin and, my face and my balding and all these negative things that lupus has caused, the DLE has caused. I can like be free and just be like, oh yeah, this is cool. I can just wake up, have a coffee, have breakfast, sit down and stream. And it felt nice. So it started to stick. And then I got into the Stream Elements Diversity Program for 2020. And then I commissioned Kuma to make my first 3D model. And then it just started to roll from there. And it was just I just stuck with it, and I will stay sticking with it because I also talk about the benefits of like being disabled or chronically ill and how VTubing has saved me as a content creator. And how it could save like the accessibility community, as like, if someone has a problem with going on camera, or they have anxiety, or they suffer from PTSD, or they just have some form of disfigurement, how VTubing can actually help with that. And it's something that I've talked with it in speeches and like in places like I talked with companies like Square Enix about it. I talked at PAX about it and stuff like that. So it's something I very, very strongly towards when it comes to like my own experience helping other people with that.
What are kind of the practical ways that works out, especially for people with disability?
It's a practical way because you don't have to worry about like this, like that's what I like about like the VTube studios and stuff. You can have it set to like certain positions and stuff with like your keyboard and things like that, or clicking. And I think it's like a really, really accessible way that people like myself can really enjoy content creating. It's just how you set it. It is a pain to set up, I will admit that. Like, it is a pain to set up, but once you have everything set up, whether you have a Stream Deck, because I use a Stream Deck, whether you use a Stream Deck for it, it's so much easier just to press a button, have your model set up, you're good to go. So I'm very thankful like for VTubing, because like I said, it saved me, honestly.
Does it also cut out a little bit of the stigma that might come from a viewer's perception coming in for the first time, where they come into a streamer, especially for face cam streamers, and they're like, I expect you to look and sound a certain way. Does VTubing help alleviate that in your experience, especially when it comes to your various backgrounds, whether it be your disability or even the fact that, like you mentioned, like you're Black and Indigenous as well? Like, does it play into that as well?
I mean, like, people say my model looks remotely close to me. I've posted my cosplay pictures and stuff like that, and my model does look remotely close to me. I think it's because I wanted to have that bit of a link with us. But I've seen the people like, you don't look how I thought you would look, or you look how I thought you would sound, and that comes down to like if the person is comfortable with doing that. In the end, I'm very comfortable with that. Like I said, my picture is out there. I do voice acting for video games and animations and stuff like that. So I don't know everyone else's experience. I really can't speak on that personally. But for me, it's fine. People are like, you sound like how I thought you. I think the one thing people do say is, I thought you would be taller. So that's the only thing I get. It's like, you sound like you're much taller than you are. I'm like, how do one sound tall?
I think
that's the one thing I do get.
I was gonna say, is there like some gremlin energy that's like, if you are this gremlin, you must be this short to ride, or like something like that?
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like really confused, but overall I'm fine with it.
Well, it's like, VTubing, we don't have the frame of reference, right? So we've only got the voice, and from the voice we have to decode your entire life background and all that kind of stuff, right? So
basically.
I want to touch a little bit more on BIPOC VTubers a little bit.
Mhm.
You mentioned you are Black and Indigenous.
Yes.
What is the experience as a BIPOC streamer, as a VTuber, versus when
Mhm.
you were a face cam streamer?
I will fully admit, I used to get like horribly harassed on, Twitch when I was a face cam streamer, than I was as a VTuber, because I think they knew what I looked like, exactly what I looked like and stuff like that.
Mm.
And it made me more, we were in the ages of Twitch Do Better, the Twitch Do Better era and stuff like that. And I had to learn how to deal with it, which really sounds terrible. I had to learn how to deal with the hate rates of, being called the N-word, someone saying they were gonna get the cops to put a knee in my neck, and it was a horrible, horrible, horrible experience. It's gotten better, but I do feel like, from my perspective, and this is just my perspective, that when it comes to Black VTubers, we don't get as much respect as, other people in the space. I don't see a lot of agency VTubers that look like me, or at least around my skin color. I mean, there's a few, but if you think about the pond of or the lake of agency VTubers out there, you wouldn't be able to pick out the brown skin people. It'll be like Lily who wears Waldo of picking them out. So it's one of those things where I feel like, I want to see more of, and I want to see less harassment of, Black and Indigenous and Latino content creators. So even if they find, I had a friend, someone found out they're from Southeast Asia, and their skin is brown. So they got harassed because they thought they were a Black VTuber. And it was really awful. I was like, man, no one can have nothing. You can't be brown and be happy. And there was a video that was on this by a content creator, begins with a T. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Toledo, yes. And he literally spoke perfectly what it's like, especially being a Black VTuber. And it hit the nail on the head. It really hit the nail on the head. Even if your character is more lighter of skin presenting, and once the community finds out you're Black, I mean, they're like, you're Black? Ew. I've seen that happen. It's gross.
Yeah.
So it's really gross, and I hate it. But like I said, Latinos, Asians, Indigenous, Black VTubers go through a lot. I think the hate is just more directed towards Black VTubers, unfortunately. As a Black YouTuber, it's just me looking from the outside, and my own personal experience. I still got hate raids when I was a VTuber. It just wasn't as much. It wasn't as strong, I guess because they couldn't see what I look like. But I get some weirdos in my chat, saying oh, what ethnicity are you, or are you Black? And I've been called things like monkey and stuff like that. And it's just wow, this is our community.
Yeah.
This is it right here. This is it, y'all. But overall, I would say it's getting better. It's just not quite there. I think the more and more we get that representation, and it's not just a situation where it's you have to check your diversity checks. It's more of it would be nice to see, it's it would be nice to see, so that more, you get more people from the Black community to come in and be like, hey, that looks cool. Look at that big agency VTuber. I want to, they look awesome, and they're part of a big agency like V Shoujo and Nija Sanji or Hololive. That's awesome. I would love to see that, but you don't really see much of that.
Yeah.
And it's not us crying or complaining. It's us just wanting to see someone like us, so we know we have a chance.
Yeah. And it also plays on the other side as well, where it's if you have that increased representation at the top right, it would help with the community tolerance, I guess is the best way of putting it, right?
Plus, y'all guys will get more money. I mean, think about it. You would get more. I mean, if you want me to be the more business aspect of it, because my mother was in business management and she taught me a lot, y'all get more money. Y'all would get so much more money if you had someone that looked like, black folk up there, but like overall it is what it is. That's what I always say. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
But no, you are totally right in that, there are studies and very much a lot of research that diversity does sell, and that it's not just gender diversity is the one that they focus on, but it is racial like diversity and gender non-conforming people as well, and all those kinds of things. Like diversity is a selling point in business.
Yeah, 100%.
You mentioned it earlier as well, and because we've just been talking so much about diversity and all that and the charity work, we haven't actually gone around to it. Voice acting. How did you get into that, and how did that, help you when you started out with streaming?
So I had dreams of being a professional WWE wrestler. So my mother gave me the awesome advice, which I'm glad she did because it did help me out way in the future. She was like, well, if you want to be a wrestler, you need to learn not only how to wrestle, but how to do theater. Because wrestling is also about it's also like a acting show. It's like there's the storylines and stuff like that. Cause my mom was a big wrestler fan too, so she understood how to work. She's like, there's storylines, there's characters and stuff like that. So I said, okay. I took theater, and I started doing theater stuff in high school, on into college, still keeping up with my wrestling and stuff like that, and I just loved, acting, singing on stage. I did play male roles because my singing voice is much deeper than a lot of the guys there. So I would play the males with especially in Phantom of the Opera, I played the Phantom. So it was something that, helped me a lot, that I was like going through. But once my lupus started to like affect me really badly, and my called rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's syndrome, epilepsy, I had to stop doing wrestling and stage acting. So someone made a suggestion, was like, well, why don't you do voice acting, because that way at least you can just be at a booth, you don't have to worry about like your health, you can just like sit down and record, or you can stand up record, or you can record at home. And I was like, you know what, that's not a bad idea. So my first video game I got, I did, that's on Steam still to this day, it's called Luna and the Moonling, which is a puzzle game and stuff like that. And I just started to just go from there and start doing more, indie games and like recording. And then my big break was House Party, which the Game Grumps did a Let's Play of, and I did the voice acting because me and my husband would watch the Game Grumps play it. And like, I was like, I want to do this one day. And he looked at me, he goes, yeah, you will one day. And then the auditions came up. They were looking for a black femme voice for their new character. And I said, my friend was like, if you don't take this opportunity, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. So I did it. And I got the part on April Fool's. Didn't believe it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the worst day to be casted.
Yeah,
for like a dream gig, that's the worst day to be casted.
They're like, this is not a prank, this is really real. I was streaming when it happened. That's when I was still not, before I was VTuber. I was streaming when it happened, and it was just like, wow, oh crap, this what? And so, I work with them. I've had the honor of working with like PBS shows and like BBC, and like, just doing bigger gigs, having the opportunity to audition for places like Nickelodeon. And it's just been a wonderful experience. I'm not union yet. I want to, but that's a process.
Yep.
So like, it's been a nice thing to do and have fun with, and like tell others about it. Because when I first started out, I had no coaching and stuff, and I had to like teach myself a lot. So I tell, when people ask advice about voice acting, I was like, this is how I got started. This is how I got to practice and all these things, because I didn't have anybody to tell me. And now that voice acting is becoming more diverse, it's like one of the better times that I've had in this community. And I'm very, very happy with it. And I love voice acting. It's not my main source of income, but like when I get like a job, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, let's go. I won't stream. I'll be like, hey guys, the stream may be canceled from either one of three reasons: my health, my family, or voice acting. And like most of the time is my health. It's rarely voice acting, but like if I usually do my voice acting jobs on my days off from streaming.
Yeah, you've got that entertainer blood in you, huh? Like you just all the way back.
My dad was an entertainer. He was in a band.
Yeah.
My godmother is Kathy Hughes, who owns a bunch of radio stations in Washington, D.C. And it was something that was always instilled with me as a young age. I took ballet, I did singing, tap dancing, piano, classically trained. I've always had that I'm going to be an entertainer. That's going to be my end goal. That was my destiny from birth. Kind of a situation, but I didn't know what path I would take. And here we are with VTubing, content creating, and voice acting. Sometimes singing. I do singing too, so yeah. And
there's one part of this that you haven't said yet. Can you tell me about the time that you worked in an amusement park?
Yeah, so I worked before at a haunted house. I used to work at haunted houses professionally as a professional scarer. And,
what a job title, honestly.
Professional scarer, yeah. I would play like little characters, like characters that no one could see, like because I'm so short, so they would play that on my body type and like keep me in like really hidden areas. And I had a banshee whale, so people loved that about me. So I applied to do the same thing at Six Flags because one, it paid more, and two, it was more like you get better breaks and stuff like that. Not to say that the places I worked didn't give me breaks. It was just a constant roll of people coming into these places. But Six Flags, it was like a queue system. So I would have like breaks. I would drink water. I would just sit down and relax. It was kind of nice. So I went from doing scaring to character for the Halloween season to like then asking to come on for the spring, summer, and fall season for just regular stuff like doing character suits, ushering shows, being my own character for Halloween and not doing scaring, named Sassy, that will walk around the park, be mean to adults but nice to kids. So that was like my own personal character that walked around Six Flags. Which was really, really nice because like I didn't have to wear like the Tweety Bird suit. You have to be a certain height for different suits. A little secret there. You have to be a certain height for different suits, and like usually they would like put the short people in either Taz or Tweety. So it was like one of those things where like I got to like be a full character that I put together, and that's something I actually got to bridge over into VTubing. With my personality, it's like sometimes I can be a little sassy with people when they come in and be rude. And I can just be just as like rude back and be like, yeah, so you have to there's a band hammer, I'm not dealing with this today, and kind of a situation. So yeah, it was a ride. I think Six Flags has definitely taught me a lot about the entertainment business because I got to meet some amazing people during it. Like we had like Scott Steiner. I mean, not Scott Steiner's I forget his name. He was Razor Ramon before he died. We got to meet some famous wrestlers, athletes and stuff like that behind the scenes, and it was like, oh my god, it's not Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner is Big Papa Pump. I have to look this up because I feel like I'm putting no respect on his name.
Meeting the big wrestlers though, that would have just been like an absolute fangirl moment for you.
He was definitely a big wrestler. Scott Hall.
Yep.
He was one of the wrestlers that I loved growing up, and when I got to meet him, he was just this is before he died too. This is like a couple years before he passed away. He was really good. It was like nice, like watching him in the ring and stuff like that, and just like it was just wonderful to watch him train people. I wanted to get in the ring too, but I was just like, my body was just like, no, don't do it. You're gonna break yourself. But like, yeah, we got to meet like so many people behind the scenes, guests that came to the park. Because if you're a guest, if you have the potential, you can literally buy the park for a day.
Yeah.
And so like the park will just close down, and like you can buy the park for a whole day and just have it to yourself. I forget how much it was. I don't even think I'm allowed to disclose that. But I know
but it could happen. It could happen.
It's in the tens of. I know it's in the tens of thousands. I know you have to make enough money so that the park can sustain itself for one day, and it has to be that much. So yeah, it was definitely a time. I definitely enjoyed it. Would I do it again? No. It was hot. That was the downside. It was hot. There were wasps everywhere. I got stung a couple times. The dancing and stuff was tiring. I'm at a point where I'm just like, I'm good. It was great. I wouldn't change for the world. Do I think younger people should get into doing Six Flags entertainment? Absolutely. Most of my co-workers who were with me those years have gone on to do big things. Like one of them is a backup dancer for Meg Thee Stallion.
Oh,
Another one
wow.
was in the Beyonce music video. Another one, I have a couple who now that used to do the stunt shows now do stunts in China, live stunt shows in China. I
Wow.
have another one that's worked with that does like live plays. They got to do the SpongeBob SquarePants live Broadway play. Like so, like it was definitely something that we all enjoyed and did and got to branch out and do other things in the entertainment business. So like yeah, it's blood, sweat, and tears. It doesn't seem like it because it's Six Flags America, but like the entertainment division of Six Flags America is by far one of the funnest times I had. I just can't do it again.
And don't sell yourself short here. Like you still went down the entertainer path with what you've
Oh
done
yeah,
in
no,
streaming
I
and content
definitely.
creation
Oh
as well.
yeah. No, my former coworkers, when they saw I was voicing with Doja Cat for House Party, they were like, Doja Cat? I was like, the Doja Cat? I was like, yeah. They were like, it's so. They like I was talking to one who now works in California and does like she's she's a stunt. She's a stunt person for people. Like she's worked with like Avengers and like Agents of Shield, stuff like that. She's done so much. She's like, I'm so proud of you, because she was like, you were dealing with so much illnesses and like you still found a way. I was like, yeah, I did. I still found a way to get in there. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. We all went and gone and do really big and better things. And I was like, you're absolutely right, we did.
Yeah.
So, but I wouldn't do it again.
Those days are behind you now. They're behind you
Those
now.
days they're very much behind me, and I'm fine with that. I'm very much fine with that, them being behind me.
One final topic that I want to touch on while I've got you here
Yeah.
is your broader family, because you've mentioned your mother being a very big inspiration for you and driving, I guess, the legacy of your charity work, or at least setting the foundation for it.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned your husband as well. What is it like, I guess, juggling the family aspect with your content creation?
It's not as bad as like what people would think it is. I have a son. He's much older. He's like 16 years old. He understands VTubers. He's a huge Takahata fan.
And you've collabed with him. You've collabed with him.
Yeah, he didn't know though. My son didn't know for the longest time. Like he was like, oh, I love Takahata. Takahata's amazing. I love Hellsinger Bridge, and I love all his, voice work. I was like, I've collabed with him a couple times. He was like, no. I was like, yeah. And my husband was like, yeah, your mom's been on his show. He was like, wow. He's like, I didn't know that. So like he understands. He knows what VTubers are. He knows what YouTube is. He's hip with the crowd. My husband Mouse Incarnate is by far the most supportive person in my life right now. Like he didn't understand the whole streaming aspect at first, but then once it started rolling, he was like, no, I see it now. Now he's going to be a VTuber in the fall. So
family collabs.
yeah. No, we've been collabing
Yep.
for the last 2 years.
Yep.
And he's been on my channel for the last 2 years, and he's like such an amazing partner. He made vows. He goes, I'll be your biggest supporter and your biggest challenge, and he has lived up very much to those vows. But my family, my immediate family, my son, my husband have they get it. My family, my dad, he doesn't get it, but he knows I'm happy because he's not really all into the tech and like YouTube and stuff like that. He's an older gentleman. So like he doesn't really get it, but he goes, as long as you're happy. I see the awards that you win. When I was in the Wall Street Journal and he saw the article, he was like, is that the
Yeah.
person that is that your avatar? And I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, she's pretty. I was like, thank you, Dad. He was like, I'm proud of you. I was like, the first person in our family to be in the Wall Street Journal. And I was like, yeah, I am.
Was
So it was like
that
moments.
the article with Aru as well? I vaguely remember like there was
Oh goodness, it was with Pumpkin Potion and someone else. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was basically talking about VTubers, and I was also in the informant with Iron Mouse. So that was like a peak thing for me to be in the same article with Iron Mouse. I was like, ooh, wow, that's an honor. But no, like he was very proud of, me being in the Wall Street Journal and like but my other family, they know what I do. They know I do voice acting entertainment. They're just like, as long as you're happy, we see you here and there on TV and like on the internet. We're proud of you. All that stuff. They just don't fully get it. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. I'm glad I'd rather them not fully get it than just to shun what I do. Because when one of my family members was like, I saw you were in a thing with Ryan Reynolds. I was like, yeah. They're like, that's so cool. One of my little cousins who watches YouTube. Sorry.
That's all good.
One of my little cousins that watches YouTube. He was like, I saw the little game awards that you were in with Ryan Reynolds and Jacksepticeye. I was like, yeah. And they were like, that's so cool. My cousin's famous. I was like, no. No. Don't get it twisted.
I was gonna say, don't get your hopes up. No, I will not be getting you an invite with Ryan Reynolds.
I'm not that close to Ryan. No, we just happen to be presenting awards on the same show. That's the link that we have. So like, it was like one of those moments where like I have my little cousins and nieces and nephews get it, and my son gets it, my husband gets it, but my my family's much older generation. They're just like, as long as you're happy, you're making money, it's fine.
Yeah. Do you think that your mom would be proud?
Oh, 100%. A lot of my family members agree that she would have been very proud. My dad says it all the time. My dad said if he saw you today, she would be like, if she would have saw you today, she would be very proud. Because you're doing good things for people, and like you're not in a situation where you're in a bad space. Because she knew the space, like she knew the situation I was in before I started all this, before me and my husband got together, and it wasn't good. I've been homeless. I've been in hospitals for months at a time before, and it was not my highest point, being so sick and like not knowing what was wrong with me. So before I found out it was lupus, because lupus is a disease that hides. It likes to hide for some strange reason. It likes to mess with you. But I would be like so sick that like I would be in hospital. I think the longest I stayed in the hospital was like 7 months.
Wow.
And it was just like I was like rigged up with all these things. I remember like just being able to basically barely move my body, but I can move my eyes and look around a lot in the first couple months, and then as I started to get better, I can move better. And I've been homeless a few times before because I was taking care of my mother, but like finances was piling up. I couldn't get a job and take care of her at the same time. And when I tried to do that, she would get sick. I would have to rush home. Then I lose the job. It was just a lot that I was dealing with beforehand, before I started really going into this journey of entertainment, like buckling down and saying, I'm going to do this, not only for me, but for my son. So I know what it's like. I've been there. I've walked those shoes. I've climbed that mountain. I'm happy where I am in today, and I know she would have been happy when she found out my husband proposed to me before she died, literally months before she died. She was like, I know you're in good hands from now on. So like, I know everything's worked out. You've come a very long way. You fought very many battles. I shouldn't be here today. I almost died. And like, it's like one of those things where like, I'm thankful to be on this earth, and I'm thankful to be here. It's another reason why I do what I do, because I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through, the battles and hardships that I went through. And I know deep down inside she would have been proud, because I put aside, my own pain to help someone get through theirs. And that's what she did. Yeah. So I think she would have been proud. She probably would want me to make more money, yes, but you're making more money.
That's just general parental worries. Let's be real there.
Yeah.
And as much we've spoken about your journey so far, there is still plenty to look forward in the future in all your chapters, Tiffany. And I am very much looking forward to watch on from the sidelines and all the great work that you do. So
thank you.
Thank you for giving me the chance to tell your story and all the little charms and quirks of it. And thanks for coming on to Behind the Model. It's been wonderful to share this time with you.
No, it's been wonderful to be here. Thank you. It was like, I was like, oh, I want to do that. I was like, I want to do that so bad. I'm gonna reach out, and then you were like, oh, I've been wanting to reach out to you, and I was like, oh,
Yes.
okay, well, let's do it.
Yes, as the little final bit of behind the scenes lore that people can have in this episode, I had been wanting to interview Tiff for months, for quite some time. And then she reached out to me and I was like, perfect, we're going to get this fast tracked. We're going to get this done now. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being so open and sharing your story.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm an open book. I'm honest with my community. I want people to be like, yeah, well, I know, don't do what I did. I teach you guys lessons. Let me be your mom without the parasocialness.
Yeah. Alrighty, Tiffany. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful day. It was nice meeting you all. Bye-bye.
Tiffany Witcher is the latest guest on my series Behind the Model, diving into the stars who make VTubing the creative medium we love. If you're interested in more of Tiffany's story, you can read the accompanying article linked in the description. You can also find all of Tiffany's social media channels below. If you liked this episode, I really appreciate you liking and subscribing while you're down there, and leaving a comment if you have any feedback. It all helps me make the show better, as well as my podcast, Virtual Recap, which I record every fortnight with Hannah. So if you like VTubing news, I recommend you check that out as well. Until next time, thank you.